Thanks everyone for stopping by and welcome to today's webinar from Mega Camp to Mega Cash with MAPS coaches Tim Beverlin and Mike Hillary. Before I kick it over to them, I have three quick announcements. Please note this meeting is being recorded, and I will share the link in the chat momentarily to the MAPS YouTube channel where the recording will be available within 24 hours. Currently, everyone is on mute. However, we do value group participation, so we ask if you have any questions, please type them into the chat box below. Following the meeting, if you have any questions about today's call or any other coaching programs, please always feel free to email us at fasttrack, that's FASTTRACK @kw.com. And that's all for me, guys. The floor is yours.
Awesome. Thank you, Graham. Well, good to see all your faces. I got to see some of your faces last week. Mike, it's always good to see you as well. I get to see you a couple times a week as well.
Yeah.
Here we are. Yeah, let's jump into it.
Add pin. All right, there we go. All right, Tim. So I don't know about you, but I take a lot of notes at these things.
You do. And in fact, you're so kind that you share them with everybody at mikesnotes.net. So that is not a shameless plug. It is a resource that I use. How many of you are already using mikesnotes.net? Yeah, that's the Mike at mikesnotes.net. If you didn't know that, it's Mike Hillary. So he's so kind to share those notes. They're great. It's a great resource. So sorry to plug your product. No. But it's great.
Yeah. And so the same conversation comes up every year, like, oh, these are overwhelming. There is a lot that happened here. And so our goal today is to help you get into action on the one most important thing that's going to generate the profits you need in this skills-based market. That's our plan today.
That's it. And a little bit of this, Mike, came out personally. I was overwhelmed coming back from Mega Camp with not only all of your notes, yet also the notes that I took, the podcast I listened to on the way there, and the additional coaches training that we have, and the conversations in the hallway and at dinners. And it's a lot. So the question that we are asking ourselves is, how do we know what to do first?
Well, and so we have a couple tools today we're going to share with you that'll help you get going on this path. And one of the cool things that I think really showed up for me through Mega Agent Camp this year was just how consistent everybody on stage was in their execution of what they do. Right. And so let's start with this Eisenhower Matrix. So I've heard this called a number of different things, but essentially what happens is this. You can categorize all of these ideas into one of four boxes here, right? And, us being MAPS, of course, there's either some sort of alliteration or a new acronym, right? Something that makes it easy to remember.
Yes. So you may have heard this called the 4Ds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so let's start in the bottom left corner here, right? If something is completely unimportant and has low urgency, you can just drop it.
Yeah, and a note here, Mike, that doesn't mean that it's not a cool thing.
Yeah.
It's not a shiny object. Yet a lot of things actually deserve to go in the drop it bin.
Mm-hmm. This is actually probably the biggest bin from your notes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Mega Camp is not designed for you to go implement everything. You'll notice each speaker focused on one model there on the path to mastery for.
Yeah, it's an interesting perspective. If one agent actually did all of those things, we'd only have to hear from one agent the entire Mega Camp. Yet each one has a mastery level of one particular thing. So for me personally, Mike, and you said it already, most of what I experience, it's going to live in the drop it bucket. You may also have seen this as dump it, depending on which model you've looked at with the 4Ds. There's a couple of interchangeable terms here. So low importance, low urgency. All right, how about high importance, Mike, and yet low urgency?
There's some things that still need to be done, just not right now. Right? This is when you can defer it to that later date. Like, yes, I know I need to, I need to start thinking about what I'm going to have to buy for my wife for Christmas. I'm going to defer that. That's not urgent right now. We have other things to work on.
very high importance and yet low urgency for the timing of this moment. So another word I'd like you to consider for those of you taking notes right now, under defer it, put schedule it. That doesn't fit real well with the 4Ds, and yet schedule it. Like actually pull out your calendar, pull out your device that you use to schedule things and put it on your schedule for a future date.
Yeah. So for example, every year now I put on August 1st on my calendar, start thinking about your next year's calendar. So my 2023 calendar planning started August 1st. It was super important. I knew I was going to have to do it at some point. So I put a date to it and I deferred it to that time.
It's really smart because once we get to September, October, now we're starting to get into more and more holidays, and your mind may already be on unplugging versus focusing on what do I actually need to get done between now and the end of the year in order to set myself up for success in 2023. Okay, high urgency, low importance.
Yeah, so this is something that needs to be done now, but it is not critical to your business's goals or mission.
The addition here is it may not be important that you're the one that does it. This is the humbling moment. Not everything I do actually needs to be done by me.
No, it's amazing what happens when somebody else can help reschedule something.
Often that somebody else does it better than I would have done it.
Yeah, and they can do it now.
And right now, so it's still urgent, has to be done. So some examples of this. You learned about market of the moment things. You learned about, okay, here's where the market's heading right now. We got great information on where the market is going and is currently in the US and Canada. Gary and his team do such an incredible job going through that. High urgency, that's very timely. I can't wait on delivering that. And yet the messaging may not just have to come out from myself. It may have to come out from somebody in my organization or on my team.
Yeah. So it still gets done. It's just not by you. That's it. Right. And so now we get to these are the people that made it to stage. Right. If something is that important for you to reach your goals and there is a high sense of urgency to get this thing done, just do it. I know that sounds so simple, but go full Nike here. Do it.
That is the thing that you take immediate action on.
And so what's really fascinating is everybody's coming out of mega camp, meaning that they heard all these ideas. There's one you're probably still kicking around your head of like, okay, so how would I actually still do this? How would I do it? How would I do it? The key, get started on it. Because what we know is if you're coming off of a training and you don't get into action on something about it, after 48 hours, it just fades into another idea. Right?
Yeah.
So we're here to restart that timeline for you.
Yeah, for those of you that are here with us live, we're less than a week away or a week after Mega Camp. It's still really fresh. That idea, I mean, I can almost still see the outfits of people that were up on stage and what they were wearing and what they were saying and hear the inflection. If I don't take action this week, the likelihood of me taking action next week or later, it's significantly less. So one other thing, as we stay in this category just for a second, Mike, in the do it. So what if I still have 4 or 5 things that are in that they're high important and they're high urgency? This is where you break out your tools like your business planning from this year that has your personal goals on it, your 411. What's that personal side? And what are those things that are most in alignment with that personal side of your 411?
I mean, right now, we're meeting with a financial advisor on Friday. It's super important, super urgent because, we have a kid on the way. So we got to start thinking about, okay, what is our plan?
And that's difficult to schedule. That kid's coming whether you're ready or not.
Yeah.
So what you choose to do now is hyper urgent, hyper important. All right, questions on this matrix, on this Eisenhower matrix?
Yeah, keep this in mind as we talk through the rest of today, because this is really important. Anytime you come across an idea that sounds really cool, or a new tool you may run across in the tech world that you think may solve every problem you have. Chances are it's not the tool that fixes it.
There were a
Right.
lot of shiny objects in the exhibit hall.
Yeah, the exhibit hall is designed to be all shiny objects, right? You're there to actually go attend a training session. They're taking advantage of the fact that you're going to walk this path, right? And so, Tim, I kind of want to talk March Madness if I can for a second here.
It's never too early for that in my book. So let's
Yeah.
jump into it.
So, how many of you are familiar with the college basketball tournament that happens every March? Right, it's all Beth Sand.
I mean, I watched the game with the mesh. I know he's into it.
Yeah. So every time that starts, there's always like kind of this bracket pool, right? Where we start with all 68 teams, and then we pit each team against each other in our head and move them along. And be like, okay, Kansas is going to do really good this year. Oh, Illinois is going to do good until they hit Kansas. Right? We're mentally playing out how we see the tournament going. Now imagine you take all of your ideas and ahas from Mega Camp and you put them into a March Madness style bracket. And so now you have a format to pit one idea against the other. What this forces you to do is just really kind of make a quick snap decision. So I have all 43 items of the multi-year trends on here, right? Now, some of the decisions are fairly early, right? You probably know a number 1 team is going to beat a number 16 seed, right? If I'm a market center, you can bet net agents is probably going to be more important on my list than GCI as a percentage of sales volume.
Yeah. And for those of you running sales businesses, closed units is probably going to be pretty high on that list.
Yeah. And so what you're doing is you're prioritizing one at a time and creating your sequence. And you're going to run into some tough matchups. So, Tim, what's more important for you, closed units or profit share?
It's a great question.
If you could pit the two and put your energy to one of those things, which one wins?
Yeah. And then you ask the question is, does one impact the other?
Mm-hmm.
So if I close more units as a company, does that actually increase our profit share? And I can figure out that equation. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's probably closed units because I know that actually does both. So this is kind of and I love this. And I'm going to note this, Mike. Where did you pull this from?
So there's a website called Challenge, right? With an O there, as you see kind of on the title here. You can sign up for free and put together your own little bracket very quickly.
Yes, Mike did not spell challenge wrong. That is how it's spelled in order to find this site.
I mean, it's a hard domain to miss. Challenge.
Yes. So you can plug in anything into this bracket site, and then it helps you make a decision. And Mike, you shared with me earlier that you print it out and you do it by hand.
It's more fun for me to do this by hand. I, of course, have all my drawing tools, but that forces me to get really concise on it because I don't have an eraser for this pen. It's like that is a decision I'm making. One loses, one wins. And if you had a chance to read the book, A CEO Only Does 3 Things, this is exactly what Trey was talking about in his speech. Chances are there's one number that drives the rest. That if that activity is on point, your business will be thriving.
Yeah, and I think if for many of you that are on the screen, you're running a sales business. My guess is if we had to boil it down to the one thing that would have the biggest impact on your day, your week, your month, your year, it would be tied directly to the number of listing consultations you held.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
actually sat face to face.
Yeah, it may be listing appointments or it's probably listings taken. One of those two tends to win.
Yeah. And the leading indicator is how many human beings did you meet with that have the ability to sell their house or business or property today that you sat with? So use that model. And I love that you shared that, Mike, because I think it's so smart in forcing us to get down to the one thing. Now, can you see where the combination of those two things actually works really well together?
Because then you also get emotionally invested. That idea won. Like that one's clear. That one's a favorite.
Does that mean that I eliminate all the other ones?
No, they're just not high importance, high urgency. They're not the do it now, get started.
Okay, so what we're saying in all of this is actually it's not the only thing, it's the first thing that you're going to implement as a result. So who has the first thing that you're going to implement this week that you took away from Mega Camp? You can unmute for this. You can type in the chat box. This is the interactive part of our.
I got my Looney Tunes sign. Yeah, Lynn, go ahead.
Already doing it. Already connecting with other agents through command, sending out handwritten notes, making sure they know where I'm at, Colorado Springs, and that we're also a military town, so that people come and go a lot. So definitely making sure I get connected, which I thought was very important.
Yeah, that's a combination of what Wendy Papazan's agent referral network and our new community and military. I love that, Lynn. That's a
And I
winning
think
play.
you're the first one to post in the chat box where you're from. So you're taking action and you're following up with those conversations. Great. So the way to turn Mega Camp into Mega Cash is actually taking fast action.
Yep. And you know, I almost wanted, like, this is what fast track programs are for, is to help you get to that speed to execution quickly.
Yeah. So the goal of what Mike and I have the privilege to do in partnership with many of you as a group program is exactly this. Have conversations around best practices, and then how do we utilize pieces of technology, whether inside a command or things like Challenge that Mike shared with us today. Now, Mike, what if I do have something that I need to defer to later on?
Well, so if you defer it, you need to schedule it, right? And you need to do enough research to make sure that timing is going to work for your sequence.
I'm hearing a smart plan in there.
Yeah, so you can use, Google Calendar, or you can set up a system of processes that will line up. Okay, great. Here's when you're supposed to follow up with Tim. It's been 60 days. You said he's ready to buy in the next 6 months.
That works.
Yep. So you can use that timing to your advantage. And this is where, when you teach the computer, that can be that delegated. It doesn't have to always be a person. It can be a tool.
Great. All right. Who else has the one thing that they're looking to implement immediately? They know what it is, that one thing, and they're willing to, come off mute, say what it is. It makes it real.
Hi, I would say, win the morning, win the day. And also, things are not going to be easy if you want success. We'll have to kind of, embrace the hard work and not think, it's going to be easy like tomorrow or next week, So, yeah, getting to office probably rather than working from home by yourself. That's one of the things that, I'm taking back.
Great. Love that. Win the morning. When you win the morning, you actually get freedom in the rest of your day.
Yeah, it's amazing what happens when I start laundry at 6 in the morning instead of 6 at night. It's like, oh, I have all this time to do things. There's no rush.
Yeah. All right, Cynthia, I saw you come off mute.
I am focused on wealth building. So really taking everything to heart that was shared regarding investing. I've done a little bit of investing, but I'm getting really intentional about it. And I'm making appointments to meet with people who are doing it very well and learning from them, and then continuing to grow in that way.
Great.
Yeah. And so, Cynthia, here's the challenge: is at some point you're going to have to pick a model and try it on, right? You're going to hear dozens and dozens of different ideas from these people. You're going to have to match it to what you believe is your model.
I'm also working with my financial planner to make sure that I understand what the best options are for our particular financial situation. Meeting with you tomorrow.
It must be Financial Planner Week or something after Mega Camp.
Yeah, and maybe one other consideration, and this is for anybody that has wealth building as part of your plan or your one thing. There's a great book. It's called MREI. It's a blue one. It doesn't get the love that the red book gets, and yet it's amazing. It has the model of how to build wealth in it. It'll teach you exactly what you need to do. It's a great gift for any of your investor clients too. As of still an agent and yet not as active these days, it was a great gift that I gave to a lot of my investor clients that led to future business. So MREI, the blue book, Millionaire Real Estate Investor, really, that would be one of my early steps towards moving towards building wealth.
Yeah, and you can book it in bulk.
There aren't that many billionaires that write books on how to build wealth. So when you see one that does, read their book. They've got some validity.
Yeah, especially if their path was not inheritance.
Yeah, when your parents are teachers, clearly Gary's path was not inheritance to build what he built. Okay, one more takeaway. Want to be respectful of your time. We said, 20 minutes or so, or 30 minutes that we'd allow this time. So what questions do you have? Ahas, action plan? What's next? Not all at once.
Well, I'll jump in. I'm going to the point about the MREI is that ordering like a case of those for all the closings that we'll have this year and put those with our closing gifts.
So smart.
Well, it came on stage.
Yeah. Yeah. Wasn't that what Ryan Butler's model?
Mm-hmm. Ryan and Coalition Properties in DC.
Yeah.
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 They do a great job.
Sheila. Yeah. Part of the other reason I take notes like that is this is how I remember things. It's my best path to study. It's my model.
Okay. So how do we do today? Did you get at least a path or a model, or two models in this case, that you can use towards deciding all of the things I took away from Mega Camp? Here's how I get it down to the first thing. It may be the one and only thing, and yet the reality is it's probably the first of 2 or 3 things that you can actually implement until the next event. Good? Okay. Okay, great. Thank you, Lynn. I see some thumbs. I see some positive looks. I thought maybe my microphone went out for a second.
Yeah, Sheila, go ahead. Yeah, come off mute. What's the question?
And it might be off topic, but Bridge to the Wealth building that Cynthia talked about, I couldn't find anything online, and I didn't pick up a flyer at the booth because I thought I'd get it online. Does anyone have that link available or handy? They had a QR code too.
So what one in particular were you looking for, Sheila?
It was the wealth building one. Yeah.
So the KW Wealth Community, is that with Brett Tanner?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on.
Mike will have it and we'll pull it up.
Yeah, if it's in the notes, it's easy to find.
Awesome. And it might be on, like I did go to check online like my KW, but I couldn't find that community.
So a good one to go to is communities.kw.com. That'll have the list of all the KW communities, and I know Brett Tanner's community is on that list.
So sorry, again, that was communities?
Communities, yep. Plural.kw.com.
Great. And I'm going to pop my email address in the chat box as well. If you have follow-up questions, comments, things that you'd like to be held accountable to, questions about the program that Mike and I are launching at the end of September, feel free to ask. I know Graham was kind enough to put the link in the chat box. The program is twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays. It runs for 16 sessions. So 8 weeks, Tuesdays and Thursdays. The total cost of the program is $398. Had to do some math in my head. It's $199 a month for 2 months. That's the simple math. So $398 for the program. You get access to best practices in command and technology and what we do with that. And you get to hear from Mike every single week. And I get to chime in once in a while with something as well.
And it's not just Mike and Tim's opinion, right? We've been interviewing agents on what's working for them. And so we've sketched out, here is the path to mastery if you choose command as that path.
That's the goal. Class is called Commanding Your Real Estate Career. So how do you get to that next level? And the reality is, how do you crush the fourth quarter is going to be our upcoming webinar. It'll have a different title than that. We're going to have an upcoming webinar that all of you will be free to jump on for additional questions you may have. And we're going to kind of continue parts of this conversation and set you up for success for the remainder of this year.
Yeah. And Tim, most importantly, today's pumpkin spice latte day at Starbucks, which means it's time to start thinking about your 2023 game plan.
Yes, as it's 91 out right now. It's too early for me to consume, and it is not too early for me to start my business planning for 2023. So thank you for that too, Mike.
Yeah, every year it's a mental trigger for me. PSL day. Oh, let's start thinking about next year.
It's a good one to have. All right, how we do today, guys?
Did good.
Good. Did you get some value?
Oh, sorry, Sheila, I left your pin on.
What's that?
I left your pin on.
Oh,
Thank
yeah, it was very
you.
valuable.
All right. Well, thank you for your time today. Graham, do you have any final words as we wrap up?
No, that's great. Yeah, we'll do 2 more promos, TBD on dates, titles in the works. So it'll be like a 3-part series. And yeah, thanks for everybody for taking the time to come. And lastly, the recording will be on our Maps YouTube channel. That link I put earlier on in the chat, and that'll be available within 24 hours.
Can you repost the link, please?
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. For those of you who jumped on, you can't see the access probably to the earlier chat. So thank you for bringing that up too. And last comment that I have, Mike, before I turn it over to you, congratulations to everybody that showed up to this today after a really busy week at Mega Camp. That says you're serious about accomplishing something, and you're investing the time into yourselves in order to accomplish that.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those conversations that if you apply this model each time you go to a training, you get very clear on your path to success. And the best part is it operates a lot like a restaurant menu, right? It's all going to taste good. You just only have room for one meal right now.
Really well said. All right, everyone. Enjoy your afternoons, or no one's still in mornings. I don't think that's with us today. Yeah, if you're watching the recording, have a great day. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it. Good to see you all.